and welcome to Narayana IAS. I am Pratik, your faculty for Daily News Analysis. Now students, as part of Daily News Analysis, we shall be discussing 5 important topics from the Hindu and the Indian Express. So let's have a quick brief of the topics that we shall be discussing in today's session. The first article is taken from Indian Express page number 11. Now in this article, we are going to discuss the joblessness problem. Despite India's economic growth recording a positive or surplus, the problem of joblessness still persists in our country. The second article is taken from Hindu page number 8. Now with the implementation of 3 criminal laws, we are going to understand the duties and procedures of the police officers. In the third article, we are going to discuss the Restore Interest Equalization Scheme. We are going to understand about the scheme, and this article is taken from Hindu page number 13. The fourth article, we are going to understand the criteria to accord a language as classical language status. Why? Because the center is going to tweak the criteria rules, and this article we have taken from Hindu page number 12. And in the fifth article, we are going to understand what exactly is cognitive test, and parallelly we are also going to understand what is cognition or cognitive dissonance as part of GS paper 4 ethics, and this article is taken from Indian Express page number 14. So these are the 5 articles that we are going to discuss, and finally we shall be discussing few practice questions so that you understand the nature of questions the UPSC will ask in the examination. So students, let's get started. Students, the title of the first topic is joblessness and the skill gap, right? And in this article, we'll understand the problem of urban unemployment, right? And you can map this under GS paper 3. So a question can be asked on unemployment, as it was asked in the year 2022. The question was, besides the welfare schemes, India needs deft management of inflation and unemployment to serve the poor and the underprivileged sections. So question can be asked on unemployment. What is the context? The context is that urban and unemployment has become a major issue in our country, especially when the young population of our country is growing. Now, India's economy no doubt is growing, but still the problem of urban unemployment still persists in our country, and that's the reason it is very important that we focus on creating sustainable job creation programs. Very, very important to address the urban unemployment. Now, let us try to understand the reasons behind urban unemployment. The first one is employment issues. Now, students, the people of our country do not have the skills required as needed for the industries, right? So, there is skills mismatch, which is a significant barrier to employment. So, the industries, they require a specific set of skill set. The people of our country do not have it. Now, this is a problem. Now, students, in the answer, you have to supplement this particular problem with a fact. Now, the NSSO has mentioned that only about 2.3% of India's workforce has undergone formal skill training. So, this is how you supplement a fact or data with a point. The National Skill Development Corporation has identified that sectors like retail, healthcare, and construction have substantial skill gaps. Now, the government of India has to focus and make sure that the requirement of this sector should be met by instilling skills to the people of our country, especially the young population. The World Economic Forum has highlighted that only 46% of India's youth are employable, and in Singapore, it is 85%. This is the first issue. The second issue is capital subsidies. Now, the government of India provides subsidies to the capital intensive industries, right? Now, these capital intensive industries, they actually create less number of jobs compared to labor intensive jobs. So, labor intensive jobs like footwear, textile, etc. These labor intensive sectors or jobs, they create more number of jobs. But the government of India is giving subsidies to capital intensive industries. Now, the International Labour Organization has noted that the capital subsidies or the capital intensive industries, they create less number of jobs. How? Because the money that they get, they invest in technologies, and technologies, they replace human labor. So the author of the article is trying to suggest that the government of India should also give subsidies to the labor-intensive jobs. In the year 1819, the government provided capital subsidies worth 70,000 crore to the capital-intensive industries. This is the second problem. The third problem is deficient private sector demand. Now, in the mass consumer market like the textile, footwear, small-scale manufacturing, there is less demand. Why? Because people do not have money to purchase goods. The purchasing power capacity is decreasing. So here, as per the RBI, private consumption expenditure grew by only 2.7%. This is the third problem. The fourth problem, wealth inequality. Our country's economy is doing well, no doubt about that. But the wealth that is being created is not being redistributed among all these sections of the society. The wealth is concentrated only among the wealthy class. The Oxfam India report highlighted that the top 10% of India's population holds 77% of nation's wealth. So this is how you supplement a point with a data or fact. This is the fourth issue. The fifth issue is neglect of vocational education. Now, what is vocational education? It refers to courses that focus on giving skills required for a particular job. So, for a particular job, XYZ are the skills required. The government of India provides these skills to the people so that people get job. This is vocational education. Now, in India, we are actually neglecting this vocational training program. Since the 1990s, the vocational education has reserved less than 5% of the total education budget. In Germany or in the developed countries, it is 50%. And here we are actually neglecting the vocational education course. So the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship reported in 19 that only about 10 million people had benefited from vocational training program, which is very less if you take the entire workforce into consideration. This is the fifth issue. The next issue is credential inflation, which means to acquire a job, you need higher educational qualification. Let's say to become a software engineer, you need a B degree in computer engineering. But this credential inflation means now you need a higher degree, that is ME. Now, to be a software engineer, you need B, but the credential inflation, which means you need higher educational degree, right? Now, people take jobs that don't match their education level. Happens with many people, and this leads to frustration and lower job satisfaction. So, sir, these are some of the reasons behind urban unemployment, students. Now, what is the solution? Again, we have to focus on vocational education program. That is what we discussed in the problem, right? We have to learn from successful models like that in Germany and California. Wage subsidies, you have to ensure that these subsidies are also provided to labor-intensive industries. Very, very important. Then, urban employment guarantee scheme. For the rural employment, we have Manrega. For urban employment also, we need a universal scheme. Now, as of now, many states have launched their own state-specific urban employment scheme, like Rajasthan. Rajasthan in the year 2022 has launched urban employment, and the name of the scheme is Indira Gandhi Shehri Rozgar Yojana. This scheme provides 100 days of guaranteed jobs to the people living in the urban areas. Now, Kerala had also launched similar set of scheme in the year 2010, which aimed at enhancing the livelihood security of the people. Himachal Pradesh in the year 2020 had launched Mukhya Mantri Shahari Ajivika Guarantee Yojana, again a urban employment scheme. So such schemes the government of India should implement universally, that is pan-India. Third solution. Fourth solution, the government of India should think about giving a basic income to the people, especially the people who are below the poverty line, so as to boost demand. So if you have money, you spend money, and when you spend money, you are creating demand, and when you create demand, you are actually creating more number of jobs. The fifth solution, the government of India has to encourage urban farming and develop green areas so that employment opportunities can be created. So these are some of the solutions that we can think in order to address the urban unemployment issue. And these are some of the schemes the government of India has launched to address the urban unemployment issue. We have the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, National Urban Livelihood Mission, and the Manrega. So again, in the answer, you have to give few examples of the schemes introduced by the government. So this is the topic, or this is about the urban unemployment issue. I hope, student, you have understood the first article. Students, the title of the next topic is what are new provisions for police officers, right? Now, in this article, we'll try to understand the changes brought because of the implementation of new criminal laws like the Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita and Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. And you can map this under GS paper 2, right? So, a similar set of question can be asked in the UPSC examination as was asked in the year 2021. Now, this was a question on the judicial custody. So, these are some of the rules pertaining to judicial custody. Now, as this question was asked in the UPSC examination, I thought that I need to cover this article because of the way UPSC is asking questions. Now, what is the context? The context is that the new criminal laws have come into effect. So, as the new laws have come into effect, we need to understand the rules, procedures, duties of the police officers with the implementation of the new criminal laws. The Bureau of Police Research and Development, BPRD, has issued standard operating procedures, SOPs, to guide police officers in implementing these new criminal laws. We'll understand what is BPRD. Don't worry. The new criminal laws, which are these? The Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita that replace the Criminal Procedure Code. The Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita replace Indian Penal Code. So, students, the purpose is to modernize and streamline the criminal justice system in our country. This is the purpose why the criminal laws were implemented. And how to implement it? The Bureau of Police Research and Development has provided SOPs to the police officers. Now, what is Bureau of Police Research and Development? Now, BPRD was established in 1970 under the Ministry of Home Affairs. What is the purpose? The purpose is to modernize the police forces. And how does BPRD modernize it? By conducting research, developing new methods and technologies with the purpose to train and improve the effectiveness and efficiency of the police work. The BPRD conducts extensive research on various aspects of policing. Now, which are these various aspects? Criminal behavior, crime prevention, forensic science, police administration. It develops guidelines, manuals and SOPs for the police forces. So, the police forces adopts the best practices and innovative approaches. The BPRD is responsible for training police personnel at all the levels from constable to senior officers. For that, it organizes workshops, seminars, then courses to enhance the skills and knowledge of the police officers. So, just try to remember or remind that the BPRD, the focus is to modernize the police force or to make sure that the police force is working to the best interest of the public, right? Then BPRD provides advisory support to MHA and the state police departments as well, right? So, the purpose is to enhance the efficiency of the police system in our country, BPRD under MHA. Now, students, let us try to understand the procedures and rules that were changed with the coming of the new criminal laws. First one is with respect to mandatory registration. Now, the officer in charge of the police station cannot refuse to register FIR stating that this issue or crime does not fall in our jurisdiction. Now, the officer in charge is legally bound to file a FIR under section 173 of BNSS, and if he doesn't register, he will attract penal punishment. The second is electronic FIRs. Now, you can also file a FIR through an electronic medium. You can file FIR orally, writing or by electronic means, and sensitive information can be immediately investigated. This one rule. The next one is mandatory videography. Now, the BNSS mandates videography during searches, especially at the crime scene. Whenever the police is searching to gather investigation, videography is important and essential while conducting research or taking possession of property. Now, the investigative officers must be provided with the electronic device. This is a mandate under BNSS. Then what is e-Sakshi app? Now, this was developed by National Informatics Center. A prelims based question can be asked on e-Sakshi app, right? Now, this e-Sakshi app allows for capturing multiple photos and videos that are geotagged and timestamped to ensure data integrity. So, this is the advantage of this particular e-Sakshi app, where multiple photos and videos can be captured, right? And this data can be accessible to various agencies such as CBI, ED, police, etc. The next one is with respect to provision of arrest. Now, information about the arrested person must be displayed in police station. This provision is mandated as per section 37, which requires maintaining and displaying such information, including name, address, and nature of offences. Now, when it comes to arresting an elderly person, especially above 60, then the permission of an officer not below the rank of Deputy Superintendent of Police is required. Which means if you have to arrest a person above 60, then you need to take the permission of an officer above DYSP. Handcuffing is restricted. Usually, one should not handcuff a person. It can only be done under special circumstances as specified by the Supreme Court. Next is with respect to timeline and procedures. Now, section 184, now it's not important for you to remember section, right? Now, it reports that the medical reports of rape victims be forwarded to the IO, that is investigating officer, within 7 days and subsequently to the magistrate. 1. Then, the POXO cases must be investigated within 2 months. Now, under the previous IPC, this provision was only with respect to the rape cases. Now, it is also applicable under the POXO. What is POXO? Prevention of Children from Sexual Offences Act. Then the custody of electronic evidence. Now, here, this section 193 emphasizes maintaining the sequence of custody for electronic devices, which means in order to preserve the electronic evidence, the electronic system should be preserved so that the integrity of the electronic records can be maintained. And for the very same, we have to upgrade the skills to handle the electronic devices. Then special provision for terrorist acts. Now, this section 133 or 113 defines terrorist acts and imposes the duty on an officer not below the rank of SP to decide whether to register a case under this section or UAP. So, when a case is filed, it is the SP level officer who decides if a case has to be filed under the BNS or UAP. It is the mandate of the SP officer, SP level officer. So, these are some of the changes brought in because of the implementation of the new criminal laws. So, these provisions are important. Why? Because UPSC can ask a question with respect to the procedure of the police officers, especially when they investigate a case. I hope you understood the changes brought in because of the implementation of 3 criminal laws. Students, the title of the next topic is Restore Interest Equalization Scheme, right? Now, in this article, it is important to understand what exactly is this interest equalization scheme. Interest equalization scheme, right? So, you can map this under GS paper 3. Now, the question asked in the year 2013. What was the question? The priority sector lending by banks in India constitutes the lending to which of these enterprises, right? Now, what is the context? The context is that the engineering goods, right, they constitute a quarter, right, quarter of India's mercantile exports, right? So, out of all the exports, the engineering goods, they constitute 25%. the producers of engineering goods have urged the government to restore the interest equalization scheme for all the players. They also requested increased benefits for MSMEs. Now let us try to understand what exactly is interest equalization scheme. Now let's say I am an exporter. Now I take loan from the bank. Now on that loan the interest is also levied. Let's say 5% interest is levied. When the government gives discount on that 5% interest, then that is what we understand by interest equalization scheme. Simple. So it can be pre-shipment or post-shipment. This is what the government gives discount on the interest, right? So which means, let's say out of 5%, 2.5% interest I pay and the remaining 2.5% the government pays. Now benefits under the scheme, they lapsed last month for all the exporters under except MSME. I hope you understood what is interest equalization scheme. Now let us also try to understand about MSMEs. Now what are MSMEs? Now students, MSMEs, they play crucial role. Why? Crucial role to our economy. Why? Because they contribute significantly to employment, production and exports. The MSMEs in India are classified based on investment in planning and machinery. So they are classified based on their investment in plant and machinery or equipment as well as their annual turnovers. So the classification criteria, what is it? 1. For the micro enterprises, the investment up to 1 crore and the turnover up to 5 crore. The small enterprises, investment up to 10 crore, turnover 50 crore. So it's 1 to 5, 10 to 50 and 50 to 250. So micro, small and medium MSME enterprises. I hope you understood this article. So only in this article it was important to understand the interest equalization scheme. That's it. Now students, the title of the third topic is Center Set to Tweak Criteria According Classical Language Status. Now in this article you need to understand about classical language, especially the criteria to accord a language as classical language. And you can map this under prelims as well as GS paper 1. Now a previous question was asked in the year 2015, and which was this? Which one of the following was given classical language status recently? Very, very important question. So you need to know all the language that has been given the category or status of classical language. Now what is the context? The context is that the central government has decided to modify the criteria, which means to change the criteria to accord a language as classical language. Now this linguistic expert committee of the Union Culture Ministry is very, very important for your prelims examination. They have proposed changes to the criteria. Now the proposed change will actually impact or affect the languages like Marathi, which has been under consideration for classical status, right? So now let us try to understand the criteria behind according a language as classical status. First, high antiquity, that is old records over a period of 1500 to 2000 years. Now in the options in the UPSC examination, they might confuse you with, let's say, 5 to 10,000 years. So here it is 1500 to 2000 years. The one in which the body of the ancient literature text is considered a valuable heritage by a generation of speakers. Second. Third, the literary tradition is original and not borrowed from any language. Third. Fourth, the literature being distinct from modern, and there may also be discontinuity between the classical language and its later forms of its offshoots. So these are 1, 2, 3 and 4 criteria. As of now, students, only 6 languages have been accorded to the status of classical language. Which are these? So you also need to know the chronology. First one, Tamil, Sanskrit, Kannada, Telugu, Malayalam and Odia. So you need to also remember the chronology. Very, very important for your UPSC examination. Now, what is the benefit of getting the status of classical language? The first, 2 significant annual international awards are given to distinguished scholars of that particular language. Second, a center of excellence for classical language will be established. Third, the UGC is asked to create a number of professional chairs for the newly designated classical languages, starting with the central unit. These are some of the benefits that the language would enjoy once it gets the status of classical status. I hope you understood the criteria for classical languages and the 6 classical languages of our country. Students, the title of the next topic is what is cognitive test. Now, in this article, we'll understand cognitive test and cognitive dissonance, which is a part of ethics GS paper 4, right? Now, a previous question asked in the year 2022. What was the question? The question was write short notes on the following in 30 words each. One is constitutional moralities. These are some key terms. Now, similarly, UPSC can also ask to write a short note on cognitive dissonance. That's the reason you need to understand this concept of cognition. Now, you might read this article and you might wonder if this can be important from the exam's perspective. But if you read in the GS4 syllabus, there are few concepts given in the ethics subject. That's the reason it is important to understand the key words in the article. The context, what is the context? There have been calls that the President of USA should take a cognitive test so as to understand his mental functioning. So, what is a cognitive test? It is nothing but it is a tool to measure the mental functions and capabilities, right? Now, this tool is designed to evaluate different aspects of cognitive functioning, different aspects of your understanding or your ability to perceive things. So, the test is designed to evaluate which different aspects? One, your thinking, your learning, your memory, your judgment, your language. So, this is a tool to understand the mental functions and capability. If your mind is capable of thinking, learning, taking a judgment, language, etc. Now, this test is recommended for individuals who are experiencing memory problems, difficulty focusing, poor judgment, or who feel their cognitive functioning are not as sharp as it should be. Now, going through this test will help understand one, if he is suffering from cognitive impairment, dementia, or pseudo-dementia. What is cognitive impairment? Where individuals experience difficulties with memory, learning, concentration, decision making. What is dementia? Decline in cognitive function, which means when you have dementia, it affects your memory, thinking, behavior. And then what is pseudo-dementia? It is similar like dementia, but here memory problems but these symptoms are actually caused by underlying psychiatric disorder. That is, this is the consequence of some psychological disorder like depression. I hope you understood what is cognitive test. It is a tool to measure your mental function and capability. Now, these tests are recommended for individuals, elderly, children, people with neurological conditions, mental health, job applicants, employees, medical patients, legal or forensic experts as well, right? Now, students, there is a concept in GS Ethics paper 4 which is cognitive dissonance. Now, what is cognitive dissonance? It is a psychological phenomena involving mental discomfort. Why? So, you experience mental discomfort. Why? Because of conflicting behaviors or beliefs. For example, I know that smoking is harmful. This is a belief that smoking is harmful. Despite the fact that I know smoking is harmful, I am smoking. So, here I am actually doing an action which is against or opposite to my belief. This is known as cognitive dissonance. Or let's say, for example, I want to save money. Why? Because I want to, let's say, buy a house. Or let's say I want to get the treatment done of my parents. Now, when I have money, what I'm doing is I'm actually spending money. Let's say I'm booking a room in a 5-star hotel. Now, here I need to save money, but actually what I'm doing is I'm actually spending money recklessly. right? Which means this is actually going against my belief, which is known as cognitive dissonance. The focus of cognitive dissonance is the mental conflict between beliefs, values, or attitudes. I hope you understood what is cognitive dissonance, students, right? Students, now it's time to discuss few practice questions. Let's start with the prelims practice questions. Question number 1, with reference to new criminal laws in India. First statement, under the BNSS, the police officer cannot refuse to register an FIR on the ground of lack of jurisdiction or disputed. Exactly. This is what we have discussed. Now, officer in charge cannot refuse to file an FIR. Second, it mandates that information about arrested persons, including their names and nature of offences, must be displayed prominently in police. Yes. Both the statements are correct. Option C is the correct answer. The next statement is with respect to the cognitive ability or cognitive test. Now, these tests are designed to assess various mental functions and capabilities such as thinking, learning, memory, judgment, and functioning. Yes. These tests are recommended only for elderly individuals experiencing cognitive decline or dementia. Wrong. It is recommended for not only for individuals, elderly people, but also for children, right? Pseudo-dementia refers to cognitive impairment caused by underlying psychiatric disorders. Yes. This test can help diagnose conditions like Alzheimer's disease, vascular dementia. Yes. So, which means 1, 3, 4, option B is the correct answer for question number 2. Third, with respect to MSME now, MSME are classified based on the micro enterprise are classified based on an investment of up to 1 crore and turnover of up to 5 crore. Yes. The small enterprises are classified based on an investment of up to 5 crore and a turnover of up to It is 10 crore to 50 crore. As I told you, for micro it is 1 to 5. For small it is 10 CR to 50 CR, and for medium it is 50 to 250 CR, which is correct. Which means 1 and 3, option C is the correct answer for question number 3. Which of the above are not categorized as classical languages? Tamil, the first language to be accorded. Marathi, no. Marathi has not been accorded. Odia and Sanskrit, yes. So, which means Marathi, option C, not categorized as classical languages. Yes, only Marathi has not been categorized. Now, let's discuss a means practice question. Discuss the primary reasons behind urban unemployment in India and suggest effective solutions to address this issue. Very simple question. Now, in the introduction, you have to mention that how despite India's economy growing, the urban unemployment is a problem that is still persisting or troubling our country. And that's the reason we have to focus on the sustainable urban development programs, right? Then reasons: employment issues. People do not have the skills required for the industries or required for the jobs fit for the industries. Capital subsidies. The subsidies being given to capital sensitive industries and not to the labor sensitive or labor intensive industries. Deficient because of the low purchasing power capacity. Wealth inequality mentioned the Oxfam International Report. Vocational education being neglected. Only 5% of all the education budget, only 5% budget has been allocated to the vocational education and the credential inflation. And then the solution you can mention that we need to focus or invest more in the vocational education programs. Then wage subsidies, technical assistance and extension service to the non-agricultural people. Urban employment guarantee scheme like the one implemented in Rajasthan, Himachal Pradesh and Kerala. Minimum basic income support, right? So, and then you have to mention few schemes, right? And then finally, you can mention that in order to address this urban unemployment issue, it is very important that the government takes steps in different sectors so as to address the urban unemployment issue. This is how you write a means-based answer, students. I hope, students, you have understood each and every topic that we discussed, as well as the practice questions that we discussed so that you understand the type of questions UPSC asks, and most importantly, it will help you to understand the way of how you approach the newspaper. So that's it, students, from today's DNA session. So if you want us to continue with our DNA session, then please you like, share and subscribe. Narayana IAS. Thank you so much.